Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. So things are looking really good on my Squier Strat neck here that I've done the refret job on. Let me show you how I got to this point. After putting the frets in, I went ahead and clamped the neck to the radius block, and I left the previous layer of sandpaper on there just as a barrier. But then I dropped a little bit of super glue into each one of the ends, and I've done that before I'm cutting it off. So hopefully by the time I get done filing and sanding and everything, that little bit of excess super glue will take care of itself. And I'll probably have to get at the front with a razor blade because I did these first two frets up here as a test, and it does bleed through onto the face of the fretboard a little bit, but I think it was necessary because I got quite a gap in between the bottom of the slot and the bottom of the tang. So there's like a little hole under every single fret. I could probably fill that with some rosewood dust, especially if I'd kept all that stuff, which maybe I should have done. But I wouldn't be able to do that until they're all cut off anyway. So I'm gonna see how it looks. Hopefully it's not too bad. I'm using this really thin stuff, and I'm using one of those little plastic pipettes that directs it into a very small area. So I was able to get it pretty close to the very edge or the point that I'm going for. I'm letting this dry, and then we'll cut the tangs off, or the excess fret rather. Okay, well that block came off clean and the sandpaper didn't stick to the frets at all, so I don't have a whole lot of bleed through on the super glue. I did spend a little bit of time cleaning up some of the areas in between the frets. It wasn't anything serious. I just took a razor blade and just kind of scraped the fretboard surface just a little bit. I already cut this side off, and I've learned some things from using the nippers on this side that I'll show you. I bought this smaller set of nippers because I thought it was sharper, and it is sharper, but the problem with a set this small, when you make your frets this much longer than your fretboard, is that they can't get up to the edge of the fretboard without multiple clips. So I actually have another set of these, and I've been using these instead to get to the edge. And the reason these work is because they will allow that extra part of the fret to stick over this. The head is so much wider than the body of the pliers itself. The thing I've learned about this is when you make this cut, make sure you don't lose track of this little piece. These little suckers are sharp. If that was to catch a toe or something like that on the floor, that would be insanely painful. These things just come off like no problem. Now another thing to note, when you get up to this higher range of frets here, this is a really broad head on this pair of pliers, and so it starts to hit the next fret, its neighboring fret. You can get away with just turning them a little bit and getting under that next fret. So that does work, but this is also where a smaller set of nippers might come in handy. All right, well now they're all cut off, and then I'm going to move on to using this tool, which is a fret end file, and there's two flats on this thing. One of them is perpendicular to the file itself, and the other one is at about a 45 or 135 degree angle. Use one pass to go this direction and scrape the edges, and then when you get these flush with the side of the fretboard, then you flip to this angled direction and run it down the edge and give you the bevel. By the time you get done, you end up with a nice even angle all the way across and nothing sticking out the sides. And one thing I did learn from using that thing on this side is that you will kind of scrape up the side of the fretboard. So be prepared to maybe touch up the finish slightly or put some oil there or something to give the color back to the fretboard. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use a little bit of wiping oil and just put it over the edge of the fretboard right there, and then oil the fretboard, and everything should match up pretty well. This finish on this older neck has a slight yellowing to it, so you have to be careful not to take the finish off the maple, or you're really going to be able to tell the color difference on the side. The main thing on this is to get it close, and I think I can clean up some of the ends with just a regular file so that I don't damage the finish on the ends of the fretboard too much. All right, I've got a little bit more time to spend on this, but by the time you get to this stage, you can really start to see the way the fret job's coming together, and you can really start to feel how it's going to be in the end. And I can get a little bit better edge on these, obviously, with a fret file, but actually I'm really happy with the way it's turning out so far. All right, after all that filing and beveling, I did just want to show what it looks like when some of the super glue bleeds over. One of the ways that I was able to see this a little better is just take a little Scotch-Brite and just kind of scuff up the entire surface of the frets and the fretboard all in one motion, and then the super glue appears just a little bit darker than the rest of the board. I'm going to just kind of come in here with a razor blade right up next to it, next to the fret, lightly scrape that away. So it's all gone. All right, I've got everything beveled and I've got it nice and sanded flush with the side of the fretboard. So I'm in a good spot here. I actually have a really nice feeling neck at this point, but I do need to make sure that the tops of these frets that I've just installed are level. I could do that in multiple ways. I thought about putting some sticky sandpaper on this beam, but I don't think I need to go that route. That sticky sandpaper is kind of expensive, to be honest. And I've been having pretty good luck just using my old straight edge here with some sandpaper glued to both sides of it, and I've got 280 on one side and 500 on the other. I've gone ahead and hit the tops of the frets, or at least the crown, with blue Sharpie. I've let that dry. I'm just going to kind of run this down the length of the neck. I already have held a straight edge up to this thing and it's looking pretty good, but there's just a couple of high spots. All right, things are looking pretty good now. I'm gonna go ahead and hit the tops of these with the blue marker again, and I'm gonna go to the higher grit. I think it's 500. Now the last step before I recrown is just to hit these tops one more time with the Sharpie so that I can see the crown. And then when I go back in with this fret dagger, I'm just going to crown them until that blue line just barely disappears. All right, well, this is gonna take some time, so I'm gonna do the rest of these and then I'll come back afterward. But I think the next step is gonna be filing the fret ends. All right, so the process of filing the fret ends is something you can see on many YouTube videos. But basically I use a 3-sided file that's only got teeth on one side, and I've been kind of just going in an upward direction, trying to knock the edge off of that semicircle shaped bevel that's created by the bevel file as it runs along the edge of the frets. And it's got quite a sharp little edge to it, so I try to round it over into kind of a ball shape if I can. Not perfect, but good enough so that when I go to polish these things, I don't have any weird sharp edges. Everything's just really nice and smooth and rounded over. After filing the ends, the last step is to give the frets a fret polish with some fret erasers that I have on hand. And these are in 180 grit, 400 grit, and I believe 1000 grit. And I hit them progressively and just kind of work my way up. There's really no need to mask the fretboard at this point because I still have plenty more cleaning to do. After polishing, I went ahead and glued in a nut. This is just glued in, it's not shaped or filed yet, so we'll get into that next time. And I went ahead and reinstalled the tuners and the string tree. That's not really a big deal either, although this is not the original set of tuners. I went ahead and switched them to an inline style. That was a straight across fit, so no big deal. So we'll get into some more of this next time, and I'm gonna go ahead and build an entire guitar out of this. I'm gonna do a new body, new electronics, new everything, and it's going to take me a while to collect some of the parts, and I'm waiting for a Labor Day sale, so that might not be the next episode, but it'll be coming up soon. So thanks a lot. I appreciate the likes and the comments. I love it when you guys subscribe, and I'll see you next time.